Hello, I'm Alan Cartwright, and I was a Navy pilot. I flew the A4 Skyhawk, which is this one. This one is a version of it. I flew the single-seat version. This is called the TA4, and it has two seats. The strange paint job on it was done because this was used as an aggressor airplane to train Navy pilots to fight against the MiGs in Vietnam. It was a heck of an airplane, and it was an attack airplane. And what we did is, when I was flying over Vietnam, was we dropped bombs and shot rockets. There is a bomb right here. It's a 250 pounder. We used to carry a bunch of those, but we have one on here just to make an example of it. The airplane was developed by the Douglas Aircraft Corporation, and it was started in 1952. And actually, this airplane first flew in 1954, and it got out into the fleet in 1956. And it was flying up until this plane. This was one of the last A4s to fly for the Navy, and that was in 2001. It has some very interesting features on it. That was meant to be kept light, it kept small, and it was also kept designed to carry a nuclear weapon. You'll notice that the landing gear is very high, and the reason for that is that was to make sure that a nuclear weapon could fit underneath it. It has a delta wing, and that gave it a lot of lift for the small space. And the wingspan is only 27 feet. And that's advantageous because it doesn't have to fold wings to get up and down the aircraft carrier elevators. Another feature that is really good on it is it has slats. Slats are a high lift device. Slats are the same as flaps, except slats are in the front of the airplane. And the person who designed this airplane decided not to have the slats go up and down by hydraulic power because it makes more weight, and it makes another thing that can go wrong. And the slats that we have on here are aerodynamic slats. These are the slats. And you can see they're out. And when they're out, they give the airplane a lot of lift. And on takeoff, they will be out. And as you get going faster and faster, the air pressure pushes the slats up. And now you have a nice thin wing, and you can go a lot faster. And then obviously when the airplane slows down, they will come out to give the airplane more lift. It's a very unique design. One of the other things the airplane has on it is an in-flight refueling capability. This is an in-flight refueling probe. When you're airborne and get low on fuel, you can get fuel from another airplane. Another airplane will send out a device that's on a long hose, about 30 feet long, and at the end of the hose is a cone-shaped device called the basket. The airplane, getting fuel, will plug into that basket with the refueling probe and be able to get fuel. The A4 also had what they call a buddy store, and it could give fuel to other airplanes. And that was used a lot in Vietnam because usually in Vietnam you're getting low on fuel and you needed fuel to land. Taking off on an aircraft carrier, the airplane cannot get airborne even though the length of the ship is well over 1,000 feet. So what they need to do is accelerate the airplane using a catapult system. The catapult system itself is down in the bottom of the ship, but the top part of the catapult is this device right here, which is called the shuttle. The shuttle is what tows the airplane. The shuttle is hooked up to the airplane by this cable, which is called a bridle, there it is, and it hooks on to two hooks on the airplane. When you taxi forward, your nose gear comes over the shuttle, and they also attach the back of the airplane to the flight deck. The reason for that is when you're getting ready for takeoff, you're at full power, and you could never release the brakes on time, and the airplane the brakes may not be able to hold it. So they have what they call a holdback bar, and I'll point that out in a second. As you are taxiing forward, you go over the shuttle, the airplane goes over the shuttle, and then the holdback bar is attached to the airplane, so the airplane comes to a stop. At that point, you're going to be looking at a gentleman, a catapult officer out in the middle of the flight deck, and he will tell you to go to full power. You go to full power, you check your engine instruments and make sure you're ready to go. And when you are ready to go, you look out at the catapult officer, you give him a nice smart salute, you put your head back, it's going to go back anyway, and he will point to the flight deck, signaling somebody over here on the side of the flight deck to push the fire button, and off you go. And with the A4, we needed about 165 miles an hour to get going, and that happens in 2 seconds. And that's quite a thrill to get that happening. I talked about the holdback bar. This is the cable that holds, is attached to the flight deck that holds the airplane back. And here is the holdback bar. It's a device that looks like a small dumbbell. It has a big end here and a big end there with a groove in the middle. One side of that bar goes into the airplane, the other goes into that cable, and that's what holds the airplane back until the catapult fires, and that groove is designed to break. Coming aboard the ship, we need to stop the airplane in a pretty big hurry. It stops in about 175 feet. This is a tail hook. You can see it has a hook at the end, and it comes down. And when you're flying your approach or coming in, the airplane I flew came in at about 140 miles an hour, and it had to stop in a big short period of time. So that hook comes down. There are 4 cables at the back of the ship, and you make your approach, and one of those cables is caught by the tail hook, and it stops you in a big hurry. Something else you're using when you're flying aboard, obviously, are the flaps, which are these red things right here, and these are speed brakes. When you're making your approach, those speed brakes are out. Now, why would you put speed brakes out? It's going to keep the airplane, or the airplane wants to go slow with the speed brakes out. A jet engine isn't like a piston engine, which gives you full power when you go to put the power to it. A jet engine needs to spool up. It takes a while to get to full power. So when you're making your approach, you put the speed brakes out, and that requires you to have a little more power than normal coming aboard the ship. So when you touch down on the flight deck, you don't know if you've caught a wire yet. You put your speed brakes in, you go to full power, and if you miss the 4 cables, you get to full power before you're off the ship. Okay, training for the A4. Once a Navy pilot got his wings, he would spend about 4 months learning how to fly the A4. The A4 did a lot of things. As I mentioned, it dropped bombs and it shot rockets. It also you had to train in order to drop an atomic bomb. And it became, as I said, about 4 months. And then also you had to do carrier landings. And one of the things that was really difficult for a Navy pilot is night carrier landings. You talk to any Navy pilot and he will tell you that's the most difficult job he ever had to do. Some of the things different on this airplane than the one I flew. The one I flew, we had guns on our airplane. We had 2 20-millimeter cannons. Where that light is pointing, that's where the 20-millimeter cannon was on the starboard side of the airplane, and we had an equal one on the other side. You can get into emergencies with the A4, and we had 4 handles in the cockpit that would hopefully solve those problems. One was if you couldn't get your gear down. Well, that's a big problem. But there was a handle, you pull the handle, and the gear would come down all by themselves. Another was we had hydraulic flight controls. We also had cables on those flight controls. And if you had problems with your hydraulic system, you would want to disconnect the hydraulics from the flight controls. There was another handle, you pull that, and that would happen with that. Also, what would happen if you lost your generator? You would have no electronics. There was another handle, you pull that handle, and right out of that door would drop a air-powered electric generator. So those were some of the things that you had to study and learn when you're learning to fly the A4.